Heather, do you want to say anything?
Yeah,
Welcoming comments to all these lovely people that have shown up?
sure. Welcome everyone. Excited to see so many of you here. I'm sure there'll be more coming in. Thanks to Lily and Lee, that's a mouthful,
Yeah.
for leading our topic this month. As a reminder, we do this the third Wednesday of every month, and next month it'll be in the afternoon. So stay tuned in the newsletter and on the Beer and Forum to see what the topic is going to be. We're working on that right now. But this is such a lovely way for us to all connect and stay connected throughout the year. So we've been at this for about a year now, right, Cheryl?
Yeah, the
Probably.
both of us, but we started it earlier, but we weren't consistent. We are now
Yeah. So
consistent.
relaunch. The relaunch
Relaunch,
has been going for
relaunch and
3 years.
third Wednesday. If you just remember the third Wednesday. So yeah,
Yeah.
it'll
And
happen.
we switch it up so that people in different parts of the world can attend. So I'm going to pass it on to Lily and Lee right away. And at the end, hopefully, we'll be able to have a little bit of less formal time to chat amongst ourselves.
That's right. And in between, we hope.
Right.
Okay.
So I want to start by acknowledging something. Just the title of this session, AI and Guided Autobiography, it probably landed differently for different people in this room, right?
Hmm.
Some of you saw it and thought, finally. And some of you thought, oh no. And maybe some of you thought, I didn't even know what AI is. And, all three of those reactions are valid and exactly right. And all of you belong here because this is a conversation. Um, uh, you know, I'm going to introduce myself, but and Lee will introduce herself later. But I want to tell you something about myself up front so you know exactly who you're dealing with. I'm an early adopter, pathologically, enthusiastically, unapologetically early. If there's a new piece of technology, I have either already bought it or I'm on the wait list. I had the satellite dish, the one that sat on top of your car like a giant bubble, back when commercial mobile satellite comms wasn't even a thing. I've had every Apple product since before most people knew what Apple was. I've got the DJI drone. I've got the Oculus, so I can dance in virtual reality, which I highly recommend. And by the way, my Ray-Ban Meta Display smart glasses are on the way. And so, yes, of course, I've used Claude to code and Gemini and ChatGPT and Perplexity and 100 other AI tools, some of which really no longer exist because the tech is advancing very fast. In fact, it's now smarter than me and probably smarter than most of us. And I don't compete with it. Remember the Jetsons? I put AI behind me like a jetpack, from the Jetsons. I've played with it, I've experimented, I've broken it, I've been delighted by it, and occasionally I've been deeply unsettled by it. And I've really put myself at the center of the conversation and said, here's who I am, here's what my values are, here's what I want to do in the world, and here's who I want to impact. And I've used AI to amplify those ideas and bring them to life. So I am not here as someone who, fears technology. I want to be absolutely clear about that. I'm here as someone who has been inside it for a very long time. So, a little bit about that. In March 2004, I stood in the Mojave Desert at a Defense Advanced Research Project Agency event, watching autonomous vehicles attempt to navigate 142 miles of unmanned terrain, driverless. No hands, no code, no sensors, no nothing. And that event is now considered the launch of the self-driving revolution that's occurring right now that we're living today. I was there because I ran the company that I founded that built advanced communication systems for the military and for lots of clients. So my background is decades in technology, my professional background. So you might be wondering, you know, why I am I'm not afraid of AI. I've played with it probably more than any person in this room. I know what it could do. I find a lot of it genuinely impressive, but I also know what it feels like to read my mother-in-law's words in her voice and know that no language model on earth can produce that because, it really requires a life, her life. And that's not something that scales. And the work that you do and that we do in guided autobiography, helping people find their voice, tell their truth, and make a meaningful life, that really cannot be automated. And, today Lee and I are going to talk about how to hold on to that line, clearly and compassionately. In a world that is moving very, very fast. And I'm glad to be here. So let's get into it. But before we go any further, I want to know, can you type in the chat one word or say it out loud that comes to mind when you hear the phrase AI in memoir or AI in guided autobiography? You can shout it out. You can put it in chat. All right. Ah. Well, those are lots of words. And thank you for all of those comments. Today we're not here to tell you that AI is good or AI is bad. I think we're here to think together about what it means for our work, the deeply human act of turning a life into language. And so it's not pro AI or anti AI. It's about, really stewardship and discernment. And all of your comments there are are really great. And it's really, really true. Some of you are saying tool, it's not distinguished from reality, stunned. Those are all uh, uh, really valid thoughts there. So, uh, Lee, can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Now, I really like this uh, quote. It is not my deeds that I write down, it is myself, my essence. Montaigne wrote that in the 16th century, and I think it really captures what in the what we do in guided autobiography, wouldn't you say? Something that it's not deeds that we're captured. It is, it's not events, it's our essence. And so that essence is why we're having this conversation because AI can do a lot of things with text. It can organize, it can polish, it can suggest, it can generate. What it cannot do is have a life and it cannot have your essence. And that's the entire point, right? Um, so why now? Now is a really good time because it's really transforming our landscape faster than most of us anticipated, even from last year. And here's the thing, you or all of your participants might be already using it. They may not be telling you, they may not even realize they're doing something that changes the nature of what they're producing. And we've come across in our instruction, participants using AI, which has made this more urgent. But the good thing is that they have disclosed that ChatGPT said this. I mean, I think our job as facilitators going forward is to navigate this shifting landscape, while keeping our commitment to making, to what makes GAB authentic and genuine, and meaning making that, only we as humans can do. So I think that acknowledging AI's presence helps us, is the first step to help us to navigate these shifting dynamics, while talking about what our commitment is to, that authentic voice, the reflection and the meaning. Kaylee, next slide, please. Okay. So, important thing to do is to define what we mean by AI. And this is the most important distinction that we can make today, although it is now morphing into one meaning. But we need to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing, because AI is a word that's doing a lot of heavy lifting right now, and it covers a huge range of things. And there's a difference between AI assisted tools, things that help you do your own work better, and generative AI, tools that create new content for you. These are fundamentally different things, and they raise, different concerns. So think of it this way. I mean, how many of you use a grammar checker? Well, that's AI assisted. It reads your words, it flags problems, it helps you to correct it. You're still the author, it's just catching your typos, or a spell checker. I mean, a lot of us have been using a spell checker for a long time. That's an AI assisted tool. You know, a readability analyzer, even a dictation tool that transcribes your speech. These are all AI assisted tools. They really amplify what you're doing. Generative AI is different. So, like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and Perplexity, you give it a prompt and it writes something back. And it creates new text. And in the context of memoir and life story work, I think that distinction matters enormously, because one supports the writer and the other risks becoming the writer. So, quick check, show of hands. Who uses Grammarly or spell check regularly, or an AI assisted tool regularly? Okay. I mean, you're all already using AI assisted tools. That's not controversial at all. I don't think. So now, who has used GPT or a similar tool to write or rewrite something? Okay. I mean, I think there are fewer hands possibly because I can't see all of you. But that's what we're really going to be thinking about today. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here's the difference side by side. On the left are AI assisted tools. These enhance our writing, as I mentioned before, grammar checkers, spell checkers, dictation software. If you can speak it but not type it, transcription captures your words, some readability analyzer. In all of these, your voice remains central. The tool is a servant, so to speak. And on the right is generative AI. This creates new text for you. It can produce a paragraph, a page, a whole chapter. It can mimic writing styles. You can say, write in the style of Sheryl Swenson, or, whatever your, Emily Bronte, whoever your favorite author is, that can generate it from a single prompt. And the risk, and I want to be precise here, the risk is that they can replace your voice rather than amplify it. And the key phrase that I want to say, it risks replacing your voice, because that's the last bullet point. It's not definitely will, not always does, risk, because the danger isn't just someone hands an AI a prompt and publishes what comes back. The danger is a bit subtler, I think. It's that someone gets a paragraph from AI, tweaks it a little, and thinks the voice is still theirs. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. And often they can't tell the difference anymore. So when you imagine one of our participants using generative AI on their two-page story, what's your first instinct? Anybody have a comment? Any thought? What's your first instinct on that?
Don't do it.
Uh, do you have a practical concern or an emotional reaction, or, what's the first instinct with don't do it?
This is Randall. So, for the same reasons that I think you're accurately stating, is that the voice and the connection and many other things are helpful, but there is a way to use it to help you with these things that I've used. Have never actually had it write anything for me, but I've used it to look up information for background, and that's very important in measuring the complex and dealing with the complexity of information in today's world. Just like the internet became necessary to look things up quickly, we no longer go to the card catalog in the library to get information every time we want to learn something new.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Cheryl?
I don't know. I don't know that I would know. I mean, how would any of us actually, Randall, how would you know, Lily? I mean, I don't know that I would
So
know.
if I want to, okay, so I'll tell you how my students know how to use it to
Yeah.
cheat. So
Oh,
before AI, they would some students were so clever that they would go and directly cut and paste from web pages on the internet and not bother to change the font.
oh,
If you're saying how would you know if they wrote if a student used it for that
yeah.
as a receiver, you would not know if that's what you're asking
Right.
me.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm asking.
So people have to uh, understand what they're actually doing to themselves. And another example I'll give is that a lot of my students now, it's not required to go to class, so students won't come and they'll turn in all the assignments. When they come to me to ask for a recommendation 2 years later, I have no idea who they are.
Oh God.
And that would be the same. Would you know who I am if you didn't read my real writing and you were reading
Yeah.
something? Yeah, I would
Yeah.
be completely forgettable.
Yeah. Oh heavens.
I mean, I think you could sometimes know because there's not a lot of deep emotion. And if you ask deeper questions about how did you feel about something, somebody can go into generative AI and say, write about my feelings when my mother died. And
Wow.
it would write this wonderful paragraph on that. And it may have a lot of the things that we all feel at a death,
Yeah.
right? But if you ask the person some deeper questions and they don't have the answer, I mean, I think there are just ways that you can um, actually, I have a couple blogs on the Story Guys on my writing blog where I
Yeah.
used AI to write, quote, my life story. And so
Yeah.
it's what happens, when you write it and how you can tell what
The
the differences
difference.
are. But so, you can check that out if you want.
Well,
But
my question really was, I can remember in the beginning that there was a way professors and teachers could submit a document to
oh,
some third place for checking this for
just like they
plagiar
used,
like plagiarism, right?
yeah, just like
Is there something like that?
the tools have gotten so people have made tools and it has initially can recognize it and then but now you have tools that takes AI generative language and makes it and humanizes it so that it's hard to detect. So it's just yeah.
Wow.
So I believe just I can recognize AI writing. And so I think the more uh, you understand it, it's easier for you to recognize it.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And Angela, you're right. AI collects and synthesizes information with each conversation, she says, and the more you use it, the closer it gets to a voice and tone. But I also think it's more than a voice and tone that is a risk there. So yeah, the writing. I can't read all of it, but there's there's a lot of stuff going on with AI, and maybe towards the end we can discuss some of those comments
Sure. Okay.
because I can't see all the comments at the same
Yeah.
time. Okay, so yeah, thank you for going on to the next slide, Lee. So Let's talk about what's actually going on out there. I want to give you a realistic picture of the memoir writing world right now, because if we're going to help our participants navigate this and ourselves, we need to know what they're swimming in, right?
Mhm.
So, writers and editors are using AI for a lot of things that are genuinely helpful. Brainstorming and generating prompt ideas when they're stuck, organizing chapters, cleaning up grammar and clarity, doing research, smoothing drafts, proofreading, maintaining style, consistency, even creating metadata and summaries for self-publishing. And this is happening, it's normalized, and most of it isn't problematic. And then there's something column, right? AI rewriting entire scenes, AI
Mhm.
beautifying emotional content, which sounds appealing until you realize that beautifying means generic. Is there such a word as genericizing? You know? Okay. But smoothing over the extra rough edges, that gives a story, its texture. AI inventing memories. Just recently, I had to email my accountant because I got a contract from him, and it's obvious that they use AI because it put in words like, this is a trust for my story guides business, which isn't a trust, and filled out stuff that wasn't
Mhm.
correct.
Wow.
So there's a lot of ways you can know when AI can. Uh, there still needs a human in everything, no matter what you're generating. Let me just say that. But there are rough edges that give a story its texture that AI can't do. AI invents things. And also over polishing authentic voice until it sounds like every other polished memoir. I mean, and I think perhaps more troubling for a group context, people uploading other stories, just like all the books that have been uploaded, stories they've heard into AI tools without consent. So, I'm curious in your own writing practice, have you used AI in any of these ways, either the left column or the right? I mean, there's no judgment here. I just like to hear one or two or three honest responses.
I like to use it as a tutor to help me do better at something that I'm trying to learn.
That's an excellent thing. We can learn a lot of new skills using AI.
I use it to edit only. Otherwise, it isn't really my authentic voice as I see it.
Okay.
I've used
Uh,
it for prompt ideas and brainstorming for sure.
Hmm.
okay. Great. Um, perfect. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next slide. But, everybody, we're living in this world, our favorite authors are talking about AI. We're reading articles about it. We're experimenting with it. And so I just have to say this conversation is at an optimum time because our job isn't to pretend it doesn't exist anymore. It's to help us understand what it means specifically for our stories in a GAB context and our participant stories in a GAB context. Okay, so let's what makes GAB GAB? And this is what I believe in from all of the information we've been taught and the research we've read. Guided autobiography isn't just another writing class. And so perhaps that's why the AI question lands differently for us than it might for a general memoir workshop. And I believe that GAB has three core pillars, an authentic personal voice, emotional safety and consent, and it's a process over a product. Let's think about that for a moment because they're not just nice values, they're the actual architecture of what happens in a GAB group, and they're exactly what AI puts pressure on, right? Authentic personal voice. The entire promise is that your voice, even imperfect, even halting, even grammatically imperfect, like so many times my Guyanese comes out sometimes, is a thing of value. It's what your family will recognize. It's what connects you to yourself. And so the moment that AI rewrites your words, even helpfully, that authenticity is at risk. And then the second one is emotional consent, and safety. GAB groups are built on trust. So what's shared in the room stays in the room. And so the moment a facilitator or a participant feeds those stories into an AI system, that trust has a hole in it, whether or not anyone knows about it. And our stories involve other people in our lives. And so feeding that into AI also impacts their, privacy. And then the third thing is process over product. This might be the most important one because I think the act of writing is where growth happens. The struggle to find words, I think, is a therapeutic part. The insight, the connection to self. If AI does the work, the product is going to look way better than we could probably write, but the process is gone.
Mhm.
And one of the fantasy writers talked about art, about art in his genre, about product and process, and I have a blog about that as well. I'm not meaning to pu- push the blog. I'm just saying that I've thought about these questions, and if you're interested, you can read that. But AI can support these values, or it can undermine them. So our conversation is really to keep us aligned. So, question for you: which of these three do you think feels most at risk for you in your own, facilitation experience? Sarah says authentic personal voice. Ansley, process over product. Okay.
I don't think any of them are at risk if you ensure that you do not use AI in these three areas, which is what I think people should be doing,
Okay.
because
All
these
right.
are all important to not use AI for
Okay.
the reasons you said.
Okay. So we all agree that those three are three core pillars that AI can undermine. All right. Okay. We can keep going then. All right. Well, let's talk about what uh, people are, writers, publishers, what, we're actually worried about when it comes to, the authentic voice, the first pillar. Um, I think that it's important to name them clearly. I think the first one is generic or flattened writing, because AI, and so that this addresses the question is how do you know when someone is using
Mhm.
AI? Okay. AI is trained in vast amounts of text, which means it tends towards the average. It produces languages that sound correct, readable, but the quirkiness or the regional idiom, um, the run-on sentence that captures someone's breathless way of telling a story, that gets smoothed out. In memoir, that's not a feature, and that's the whole point, the loss of that. I think that yeah, the second is disclosure. And perhaps this is a minor one for people, but I think if you share your writing or your participants share their writing, with family in a collection, in a class anthology, and AI has written parts of it, that should be transparent because, it promises truth, uh, about your life. And then I think the other thing about it is that there's really an oversaturation of low quality content. We're already seeing a lot of AI generated memoirs flooding self-publishing platforms, and it's really affecting reader trust. Um, and so our participants, really deserve to know that their authentic work, really exists in a different category. So I think I think we've all read something like that, or have experienced something like that. I know I sure have. Okay. So this really is the core of everything because the risks to GAB aren't just theoretical. They show up in the room, in the writing, in the dynamics between people. And perhaps many of you haven't had participants use AI. As I said, we've had a couple who have disclosed it, and that's just, I think, the first step, possibly before you might have someone who actually does it. But I think that writing as reflection. In GAB, writing isn't just recording, it's discovering, and people don't often know what they think or feel until they've written it. And so I think that struggle is the insight, and that's what AI, passes over, bypasses. And we talked about the voice dilution, in terms of the emotional processing, writing through difficult memories, that is part of the inner process, right? And it's not, there's research behind that, as Cheryl, has shared with us. And so, um, AI can't do that emotional heavy lifting or that processing. And then, of course, the ethical concerns. Who is the author? If AI writes the words, is that still autobiography? And then the one that a lot of people don't think about is algorithmic bias. AI systems do reflect the biases embedded in their training data. About class, about culture, about gender, about age, what good writing sounds like. If I use my Guyanese language in a writing, AI would correct all of that, and it would not sound Guyanese. For those of you, Guyana is like the Caribbean, although on the continent of South America. So if I say, "So what do you think you're gonna do?" In my writing, it would correct it, right? So, E. E. Cummings probably would never have done his poetry in all lowercase either. So, it just there are biases there that can affect true creativity. And then also genuine vulnerability, the kind that makes memoir matter, it's raw, it's imperfect. So, and then of course, privacy and data. AI systems may not remain private. Every story is entered into a commercial AI tool that becomes potentially training data, and that's not hypothetical. It's their business model. Okay, next.
Uh, Could I ask a question quick?
Sure.
Um, how much do you trust their privacy options? Like with my Chat GPT subscription, I've opted out of the my work going into the training model, but I don't know whether I trust their agreement.
Mm.
As a technologist, I will say that you could trust their agreement until it gets hacked into.
Oh.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, when I use these tools, I consider that it might be public to the world at some point.
Wow.
Okay. But that's just me. Because you know how many times your data and privacy have been leaked, your bank accounts, your everything. So with all the AI agent tools going out into the world, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen there. But anyway, here's the landscape in the three approaches to um, writing, publishing memoir. People are approaching this differently, and I think naming those different approaches is more useful than pretending that there's a single obvious answer. And the first approach is what I would call the restrictive kind, what we'll call hands off your story. It's AI only for brainstorming, wordless, gentle structure help, writing prompts. And most of the people who approach it this way are memoir coaches, retreat centers, writing circles, because their biggest worry is voice erosion. And the second approach is with guardrails. Use it, but don't lose yourself. And this is a middle path. They say use it, but disclose. Stay in your voice. Transparency is required. And they acknowledge that AI, is already a part of lives and tries to shape how it's used rather than eliminate it. So major publishers, authors and writers guilds, organizations like the National Association of Memoir Writers all say disclose AI, but human accountability is required. AI can't be the author. So disclose the tool and the name and the version and the purpose of what you did. You have Story Circle Network that says AI is a tool but not a storyteller, and they're developing a story integrity pledge where the core content must be lived experience. There's narrative therapies. Never give client stories to AI. AI can witness but not interpret. You could use AI for metaphors and themes. Educational institutions are having transparency requirements, distinguish between assistive versus generative AI. And of course, there are state level K through 12 guidelines on AI use. And then the third approach is perhaps what I would call the innovative one, memoir plus machine. And that's the most exploratory approach, and it's being tried carefully by some practitioners, like Storyworth. They have a voice protection built-in design now. And then LifeBio, they summarize transcripts, they pull out themes, they create narrative maps, but they say no inventing scenes. And then, of course, we have senior centers or unique places that use AI as a memory companion or as a family history organizer for genealogical timelines, and they focus on consent and safety. So those are the approaches uh, that are really out there. Okay, so I guess before, oh, okay, I will continue here. Here's something I find, very encouraging is that despite real differences in approach, there are things that many in the writing and publishing community agree on. And the first one is that authentic voice is sacred. And so wherever people fall on the AI spectrum, everyone agrees that AI must not overwrite the writer's lived voice. That's kind of the non-negotiable. Um, I also think instructors should model. It's not enough for us to tell our participants when AI helps and when it harms. We need to demonstrate it, embody it in how we facilitate our classes. And, if we're not thoughtful about it ourselves, we can't expect our participants to be. I think everyone agrees that privacy and consent matter. Don't upload stories with permission. Um, and, uh, you know, and I think transparency is required because it protects everyone. Does anybody disagree with any of these? Okay. I mean, I think all three of the approaches really come from caring about the work, and I think the question is which one, where do we stand on it? And I would just like to suggest is, do we have a common ground? Do we need a formal code of standards? Why not, just have instructors use good judgments because I think it impacts everyone. First, integrity. I think that the GAB approach, has a specific identity, a specific set of principles that make the work transformative rather than just pleasant. And so without a shared standard, that identity can erode. So, if we as instructors do different things, um, then participants will get different experience of what GAB is, which is why I think that we need a code of standard. And the second, I think, is equity. I don't think everyone has equal access to AI tools, and not everyone has equal sophistication in using them. So if some are polishing their writing with powerful AI tools and others aren't, you no longer have a group working on level ground. And so, the person who can't afford or navigate those tools is at an invisible, disadvantage that a code of standard, protects against. And then third, authenticity. If the focus of the class drifts towards, producing a polished product, and there are many memoir classes like that, and AI makes that easier, rather than authentic recollection and genuine reflection, I think that we would lose the soul of what GAB is. And so a standard keeps everyone's eyes on what actually matters. So here's a proposal or a suggestion. AI may support the writing process after group sharing, but it must not replace the writer's lived voice or experience. And this is the foundation of everything that follows.
Lily, can you clarify that? I'm sorry,
So,
I'm listening to you, but it's not sinking in what you mean by that.
okay,
AI may support the writing process after group sharing when you do it,
meaning that until group sharing, until you come into your two-page story into the group
right?
process with a story that is not touched by AI.
Right.
But
Then,
after that, you can do whatever you want with it.
oh, in other words, you give your story that has not been AI'd in any way.
Right.
And then after your group, you can take it and do what you want to with it.
Yes, it can support your writing process if you want to publish
Okay.
it or if you want to do something for your family or whatever it is
Oh,
you
I
want to do
see.
with
I
it.
see. Okay, that's
Like
clear.
you decide, oh, I'm going to put this in a book,
Right.
right?
I get it. Okay.
Okay.
Can I
Thank you. Go
can I
ahead,
ask
Randall.
about this?
Yeah.
Sure.
So, are you familiar with Ethan Mollick?
No. Ethan Mullick.
So he's a writer who talks about using AI to collaborate. He's one of my favorite authors on the topic.
Okay.
Um, I believe that the idea of using it to collaborate, which to me means using it, but then bringing it to actual human beings to give feedback, which is kind of what we're talking about here. I have a question more about the timing. Is it if I before the group process, if I collaborated with another human being to get feedback and then I used AI to enhance it, would it make a difference? It seems like you're setting up a very specific collaboration where the first step in the collaboration is with the other people in the group, and then AI can only come in later. Are you?
So the collaboration in a guided autobiography group is not one for writing feedback. It is more I hear your story,
Right.
and it's positive feedback. So in that sense, I don't think it's true writing collaboration, because what I'm hearing, Ethan, or what you're suggesting is more of a collaborative writing environment.
Yeah, or collaboration in general. So just to bring AI to the table for anything that you do, whether it's coding or learning something new or whatever, just to bring AI to the table, but not exclusively use it. That's his thesis for everything that he writes.
Okay, so
Hmm.
I am suggesting that that can occur after uh, the initial author writing experience, but not in the group sharing, because I don't think it's a collaborative writing experience. I think that experience is hearing your authentic voice and being heard and listened to, as versus a let me uh, yeah, I think there is a difference. Does
Yeah,
anybody want to comment
and
about
thank
that?
you, thank you. It's a fascinating distinction. I think that's wonderful what you said.
No,
Okay.
I think what you're saying, Lily, is that our writing comes from the heart and we share it in our groups. And then afterwards, if we want to take that and use AI to clean it up, to check out, to maybe we've gotten some ideas from what the feedback, the supportive feedback from the group was. And so we want to make those changes. Something wasn't clear. Then we
Right.
can use the AI to do that, but not before we read it.
That is what, yes.
I get it.
So
What,
I have a comment, just that
Yeah,
the writing is a transformative process,
right.
and actually what then it produces is the product. So you don't want to mess with the process, but eventually you might want to tweak the product.
Yes.
yes,
Perfect. Yes.
yes.
Lily, I was just going to comment that really what you're talking about is the oral tradition and storytelling as being something that is done in real time. So you're emphasizing that preserving that interaction, that authentic interaction that you're having with the individual while you're in the workshop. Is that, and then afterwards, AI.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. I think I need to move a little faster so we can have a discussion. So,
Um,
yes. Yeah. So, I think all I want to say here is that our job isn't to police, it's to guide. And so we can move on to the next slide, Lee. And I think that let's move to the appropriate uses of AI in guided autobiography. Well,
there.
um, I think that what AI can be AI as a tool, and the key word is tool. And so, as an instructor, if you're preparing a session, you want to brainstorm on themes, etc. It's a useful thinking but partner. Um, and it can complement a lot, but I don't think in terms of our writing, it should. So, Lee, let's skip the next slides and we can just go on into um, publishing. Go to suggested group norms. There you go.
Okay,
Um,
that's where I come in, and thank you, Lily, for all that information. She is a reservoir of technical expertise. So if you ever have any tech problems, shoot her an email, as I often do. My part of the presentation, though, is to look at the human authored philosophy. Okay, so I'm taking more of a philosophical view of how we incorporate, how we navigate this very new landscape for GAB. I think all instructors agree that these three principles on the screen are ingrained in our GAB mission, but we don't specifically outline how we feel about AI and its use by students to write their stories or write those things from the heart. So we have compiled an idea for a GAB policy, indicating that clarity is essential for GAB's integrity. Guided autobiography serves, I think, as a remedy for this rapid pace and uniformity of modern life that we're all facing. The straightforward one-page policy, I think, can avoid misunderstandings within the classroom and confusion for our students. And it's going to reassure participants that their voices are important, okay? So all of this is based on a philosophy within GAB that the voice remains human, that privacy is respected, and if there's any disclosure, it is after that crucial second hour that we spend together with our stories. Our mission really is to create an environment where reflection and process can flourish. So here's what Lily and I put together as something that maybe we want to talk about over the next few weeks together or months together, a suggested code of standard. This would be used along with that very first class when we go over the confidentiality statement. Tells everyone, within the group, hey, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Here's our confidentiality agreement. The diversity pledge, incorporating everyone into our beautiful world of guided autobiography. And here is our standard regarding AI. So all the stories created by our participants, and this includes training and all the certified Buren courses, is to be 100% original content. No AI tools are to be used by participants in the creation of their 2.5-page stories. The Code of Standard is aimed to keep the memoir component human authored and preserve the integrity of the Buren process. Students with cognitive or physical challenges who need AI assistance will be given special consideration. So that's what we kind of pulled up and came up with as a code of standards. Here is a sample consent statement. By participating, yada, yada, yada. This is what they're gonna sign. So they will be understanding that their stories are to be 100% human generated. And no story is to be loaded into AI by students or instructors who are looking for a quick way to get some comments, because we all know that sometimes that gets very onerous to be looking at 12 or 16 or 18, or sometimes, because I teach a lot, I have 40 stories that I have to read each week. It would be a lot easier if I just threw them all into AI and got some really pithy little comments, but that's not where we want to go with this. So all the classroom content would remain within the classroom. This is honoring our sanctuary, right? That's what we have. We have a sanctuary in GAB for human voice. So, as I'm very practical and I'm very business minded, I think we can't take a stance that we're anti-AI, because as Lily has indicated, there are lots and lots of wonderful uses for AI in our classes, in our program planning, in our marketing, our organization, lots and lots of ways that AI can make our work easier and really help us be more present in the classroom, because we're not worried about a lot of the other really time constraints that happen outside of our actual 2 hours that we teach. So take the no AI rule and retool it as a value, okay? Stick with me. The idea that GAB is a sanctuary for authentic human voice, and lead with this very powerful branding. So we're not saying we don't allow AI. We move that into a human authorized memoir class. Your story is written by you. It's not shaped by AI. GAB now becomes a special, artisanal almost idea, right? I remember when farm to table became so exciting. Wow, farmers markets sprung up everywhere because people were sick of all the processed food and everything in packages. And all of a sudden, farm to table was really cool, and we all wanted artisanal food. And do you remember when photography started coming back? Everyone wanted analog photos. Oh, get out your old camera, take photos again, because we were sick and tired of the digital photos that everyone could do. I remember when I used to take 15 photos on my vacation. I never knew if they were any good because I had to wait until I had enough money to go and get them all developed. And suddenly that was popular again. It became artisanal. The same thing with vinyl records. So let's really embrace this and look at ways that we can use this as a business branding idea. All the ideas come to human authorship, right? And it becomes artisanal. So here, some ideas. Let's lean into this. If GAB is going to only encourage human authorized narratives to be written and shared in class, let's use this. Let's use this as a business model. Only human authored. That is a highly marketable strategy that taps into a growing demand for authenticity and emotional depth. In this hugely massive digital world we're living in, people are looking for human first content, and that is a powerful differentiation. We have the ability to create GAB as one of the first courses committed to fully human authored experience. Writing is done without AI assistance so that memory, language, like Lily's beautiful language that would be erased by AI, and the meaning of what we really say arises from our lived experiences and our memories. So even our repetition, our emotional unfinished sentences, our incongruent spelling that sometimes I do doesn't matter because they're not edited out. They're treated as authentic markers of our life experience. The third thing, well, I'm not sure if we're on 3, but the next thing is our cultural preservation. We are preserving storytelling tradition, a resistance to the increasing available digital voice that is replacing our human-centered voice. This is an act, and I know this sounds big, but we're thinking big here, of preserving intergenerational stories. I had this idea. You know how we all now have the land acknowledgement, right? We're on the ceded territory, right? It's what we all know. We all see it every email, every time we get together. What if we had a closing line, a closing ritual in our class? These stories were written by human memory, spoken by human voice, and witnessed by human presence. Thank you, right? How powerful would that be? We are celebrating imperfection here, right? AI polishes things, it balances things. It has all these metaphors that you've never even thought of before, where we are really about, repetition, run-on sentences. Lots of times our human imperfection shines in our stories. That's because we are here to celebrate that. Hang in, I'm almost done. I'm even like business girl thinking, right? We could even have badges to promote the idea of human authored stories. We could include this language in all of our marketing materials. We could offer a certificate noting that all the work was completed under a human authored standard. And that, my friends, creates a visible differentiation for other memoirs. If this is the direction that GAB takes, and all you are going to decide, not me, in this market flooded with AI-assisted courses, our philosophy is a business booster. We position ourselves as the governance of memory, the guardians of memory, the advocate for human authorship. We're the teachers who insist that, no, I'm sorry, your story must be earned. You have to write it yourself. This is a unique marketing position for us. Very few positions, and I've done the research out there, are defining this as a principle in what they do or as a branding advantage. This means we have the ability to lead in a space where we are the human authored narrative. And it's premium positioning, which is always good, right? People look at this and say, wow, this is a premium service. And that helps with our pricing, okay? It supports the pricing that we charge. So if people look at you in the future and say, well, why is GAB so great, right? This is the elevator pitch that you can give them before you reach level 4 in the elevator. You can say it's a structured human authored life review process. All writing is created in your own language and cadence without any AI. The benefit lies in the act of remembering and articulating your life yourself. And it's a confidential group experience rooted in trust. And then you give them your business card and you say, you're in the right place. Sign up. Here's my next class. Okay. Now, as always, business-minded, if you want to take a deep dive into the ideas that you've seen today, Lily and I are offering this workshop next week, only for GAB instructors at a very great price. And we will look at how AI can improve your productivity, your classroom prep, your organization, your marketing, and the ways you can maintain the sanctuary of a human authored class for GAB. So hopefully you will come and join us next week, and you can register on our website. And the last slide, I want you to all look at this. In a world where AI can generate a story in seconds, we do something different. We slow down. We wrestle with memory. We write in our own imperfect, powerful voice. This is a human authored space because your life story is only told by you. Okay, that's it for me.
And in our class, I will be happy to share the GPT I created just for that we use as that I use for GAB marketing.
Wow. Thank you. Is that it? I mean,
That's it.
I could sit here and keep listening and listening. I'm all in, but please, can I use spell check and Grammarly, or nobody would understand me. I swear to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody's saying you can't use those. Those are AI assisted tools. They're not generative AI.
Oh, thank goodness. This was
We've all been, I mean,
excellent.
I was going to say, Cheryl,
Yeah.
even if you think you don't use AI, you are, because if you have a Google email
Yeah.
or Google anything or a Google Workspace, they have integrated AI, Gemini, into so much of what you
Oh,
do.
I know. Oh, I
So,
agree. Yeah.
your work comes up and then it says, you want to send this reply? I mean, it has the automatic
Yeah.
reply. So everybody's using it
Yeah.
without realizing it.
This was excellent, Lily. It's really made me pause to think. And I want to, before we get into Q&A, I want to thank both Lily and Lee. Lily has been a board member for the Beeren Center, and Lee has been the vice president. I don't know, Lee, how we're going to do it without you. She's been on it for 3 years and just left this January. So we thank you for all those hours and ideas that you've put in, because now I see we're going forward. I think this is a great idea. And it does set GAB apart. Okay, Q&A. Who has something they want to say?
I'm chomping at the bit. I wanted to
Yeah.
tell you guys. I told Cheryl I almost didn't come today because I was afraid I was going to be frustrated because I've gotten sucked into these debates about boycotting all of AI because of its evil uses
Yeah.
and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
I also think that it should be illegal to use AI to create art. And so, from both of those two perspectives, I think you guys nailed it. Lily said, I use AI to amplify who you are. I love that. And Lee said, celebrate imperfection. And
Yeah.
for months, if not the last year, I've been talking about this YouTuber, Rick Beato, who talks about how digitization and then eventually AI destroyed music because it took out all the imperfections. And Lee, I mean, you hit that with the core of all of this. And so I wanted to just give you an example. So I like to watch YouTube documentaries, and the ones that are AI generated, I'm pretty much clicked off within 5 seconds. It's obvious
Oh,
what they are. But I think in contrast to that, all of the writers, Tom Wolfe's first essay about the stock car race that launched new journalism, he had writer's block and he couldn't figure out what to write about this. And so his editor said, just give me your notes. And so he spent all night just writing just his immediate thoughts about what happened at this race. And it was dozens of pages. And it was so authentic and so unusual that it ended up creating a whole new form of journalism. And I think if you think of those two things in contrast, you get at the core ideas of what we're talking about here.
yeah. Thanks, Randall.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
You don't have to have a question. You can make a comment too.
Yeah.
I think one area that we didn't touch on that I know I'm working right now with a group of people who have they're all women who have ADHD that were diagnosed later in life with ADHD, so they didn't maybe have the typical profile of that you think of with young people with it. Mostly they have a lot of trouble with racing thoughts, and being able to slow their brain down enough to actually get their ideas out. And I haven't used this yet with them, but a couple of them are a bit younger, like in their, I'm going to say late 30s, early 40s, which isn't that young, but they weren't diagnosed as a child, is my point. And though one of them in particular keeps saying, I can't do this without, like speaking my whole like word vomit into ChatGPT and then having it distill down what the basic ideas are. And once I have that from my word vomit, then I can write. What are your thoughts on that? She's not having ChatGPT write what she presents. She's having ChatGPT take everything that she can say about a topic and say, here are the main points that I'm noticing. And then she takes something from that and writes on it. Does that make sense?
Well, there are two things that I mentioned earlier. One, AI is a tool, and I think we had AI use for disabilities
Yeah, you did.
and Alzheimer's and a lot of different ways, innovative ways to address those kinds of things. So I don't see that as an issue.
Okay, thank you for your perspective.
It's almost like the Tom Wolfe, It's when he took all of those words and wrote it all down and gave it to his editor. I mean, it's somebody dumping it all out and then trying to make sense of it. So if you can use AI to give you an outline or make bullet points,
Yeah.
yes.
And there are voice transcription tools that are AI.
Yeah.
You can speak your story and it
Yeah.
transcribes it. I mean, there's nothing, wrong with that. I mean, we're not saying AI is wrong, how are you either?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, no. How
Yeah,
about
can
some,
I share?
yeah, oh, yeah, Siddharth, yeah.
Yeah. So, very inspiring session. Thank you, Lily. I also consider myself as a uh, early adopter in technology. And in brief, what I would say, it's one thing to dump about love, and it's another thing to embody love. And I think personal writing helps in embodying feelings, and I don't think it's going anywhere, in my opinion. Um, yeah, so I'm yet to experience GAB, and I'm looking forward to doing that soon. Um, but my hope is embodying and also healing through the stories that I write and kind of create new narratives for myself, that I'm not a certain way. There's a lot of kind of internal games that go in head, but slowly I'm realizing I'm because of my situations and not despite of them. Um,
Right.
yeah, so those are my 2 cents.
I love
Thank
what
you.
you just said, how personal writing embodies feelings. I'm going to keep that with me. What would we do without poets? What would we do without our own personal writing, our own stories? Yeah. Barbara.
I just wanted to mention an experiment that I did recently that was, just interesting to me. And I don't know if I'd just like a comment that I had an idea for a new theme that hadn't been used, and I just wanted to get a little help in generating some questions. And so I put it into Chat GPT, the theme. I had done a little research on my own. And and I asked it to generate some, I think I used the term sensitizing questions. And it did that. And it also referenced GAB in the response.
Wow.
Yeah, saying these are some questions that would be useful in a guided autobiography workshop. And would you like also to create I can create a handout for you. There was some follow-up to it. Would you like an introduction that you can use as a script and so on? So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I didn't take it any further yet because I guess my question here is this a tool or is this generative AI?
No, I'd say it's a tool. I mean,
Yeah.
anything that could enhance your productivity and your efficiency. And as I said, I have a chat GPT that I created for the purpose of marketing a GAB. And what I do know is that AI does scrape the GAB websites and anybody that writes on GAB because it actually came up with the resources that's on the GAB website one time when I was researching. So,
Wow. So we're out there.
even though it's behind a paywall, it is still found.
Yeah.
And so I will suggest to the GAB board right now that instead of a static resource, uh, you need a more proactive resource, kind of like what I have in my Chat GPT for instructors in marketing, etc. Because so I mean I could show you, but I have a Chat GPT. I'll say, give me sensitizing questions for military, and it'll give you a whole, in
Wow.
the way we would do it. Create a 6 week lesson plan.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But so I don't, I think in the future it's going to happen that this is aside from story. We're talking about productivity, right?
Yeah.
Is that anything that you have is, like a resource, a static. I mean, there are some people who will do it that way where they want to go to a site and download stuff, but this is more, uh, what's the opposite
The
of
world's a
static?
changing,
Yes,
it's
the word,
changing.
yeah. Where
It's a different world. Whoa, my
exactly,
God.
where you don't need, 10 different themes
Right.
specifically. You can have it, but yes, I mean that's where it's going. And yes.
I think
Julia.
Molly had her
Molly.
hand up first and then Julia. Molly first. Here.
Yeah, it's lovely to be a part of this conversation. I don't actively teach GAB, but GAB is a part of what I do because I now work on the publishing side of things, where definitely there is a lot of usefulness to moving beyond first draft into something that your audience can engage with and that your family can appreciate. And I think I've just been thinking about the pitch that you made so strongly, Lee, about this authenticity as the brand of GAB. And I just wanted to comment that I think this is really wise. We had a speaker at Personal Historians Network West last year who spoke about AI and said the change of AI is as transformative to our society as internet was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And there was a time, well, don't ever do research on the internet. I remember that was said once when I was a teacher years ago. Well, you just don't want to cite Google or Wikipedia, but you want to be thoughtful about your sources. So we've learned how to navigate internet. And I think the same with AI. We will learn. It's gray, even the examples. Well, that's a tool. Well, that's generative. It's very gray and very nuanced. And I think the thing that speaker said last year that I've held with me is that in this age, authenticity is what matters. We can generate a handout, a sensitizing questions. We can generate a whole book on GAB, a new book on GAB. I'm sure AI could help us write it in a couple of days. But the people is something you can, real humans. That's the authentic connection. So I just want to put a plug behind what you were saying there, that I think this is a really wise direction to go, is to say it's not about a list of questions. It's about real people, first drafts, authentic stories. So I think that is really, really wise for this GAB work. So just kudos to you for naming that so well.
Thank you.
Perfect. I think Julia had a comment.
Yeah, I echo what Molly just said about the presentation, especially the authenticity and the human, thumbprint. I will say when Lily was talking about using generative AI to get sensitizing questions and, putting together a course, it works great for someone who already knows how to do it and understands and can kind of filter through. I think it becomes more tricky with newbies who don't really completely understand, like, how to do it first draft on their own and then just like spinning it through and then getting it polished and pretty, but not really being able to decipher and understand, what's a good example and what might not be. So I think all our stages, for the most part, we've been through the toil of first drafts and writing a lot and whatnot and teaching. But for younger people or people who are newer at this, I think it could be, I think they miss a step. So that's my only comment.
That kind of leads me in who I worry about is my grandson who'll start college this year, how it's going to change for young people, and I don't know if you're still teaching, Randall, but I wouldn't want to be in academia right now as a professor. Lauren has her
Lauren.
hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point about intergenerational, interaction. I think that this is really going to improve the and bridge the generations, mainly because this is just my own opinion. I feel that the technology has always created the gap and the division between generations. So, in organizing a GAB course with both generations, I think that the elder will be the wisdom keeper and will be preserving the stories and passing it down to the next generation. So I'm thrilled about where you're going with all this. I really am.
Anybody else? Miss Flora, I never know you to be silent. You must have something you would like to say about this. You
She's
have been
using
my
it.
social media promo person forever.
I think I should have kept that video off. Good morning, everyone. I was just laughing as all of you were sharing. I was laughing at thinking back to the days of the Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature
Oh, yeah.
that we researched. Any of you who, that's the benefit of being
Yeah.
81 years old, I remember all this stuff as a student and then as a teacher. I remember my students turning in things where they had just plucked a sentence here, a sentence there, a paragraph here, a paragraph there, and
Yeah.
put it together. And I just think about those days. And I certainly think that AI is something that has been with us longer than you think.
Probably.
And it's just that us commoners are just learning about it. So instead of fighting it, we do need to do exactly what's been shared today, and that is to find out how we will use it and apply it. And I think it's only as good as the person using it, because no matter what they generate, we still have the final vote on whether we're going to use it or not.
Right.
And the better we are at being writers and thinkers, the more we will analyze even what AI gives us and decide if we're going to use it. So the better that you are as a writer and a thinker, the better use you can make of AI, but it's certainly not going to go away. I don't know how we will detect it from our students who are very clever, but it's something that is part of our lives and has been for a while. And so our job is to find out how to use it well. And I think this presentation has been helpful in that regard.
Thank you, Flora. I want to take 1 second to introduce the Beeren Center has now our first hiree ever. We have a virtual assistant who, when you look at her, it doesn't look so virtual, but Michaela, who lives in Nebraska. If you could do me a favor, I don't know if Sarah's here to tell you this, if you would look at the chat to see if there's any questions in there that somebody is not doing and just then shout them out for us. So Michaela, you might wave your hand so everybody sees where you are. So she's virtual, but she's a person too.
And that I will say, we're not going to replace her with a AI agent or robot.
No, yeah, really. Your job is safe, even virtually. Any other comments from anybody? Golly, we've put everybody to sleep. This was arousing, really informative, for all of us. I've learned more things.
Greg?
I could say
Greg, go ahead.
that the progression of technology maybe probably was, I don't know if it was ever ethically questioned that we use Zoom or GAB,
Oh, yeah.
but the difference between sitting around a table with 7 people and looking at a screen with 7 people, there is a difference.
Oh yeah.
And we try and bridge that gap, and the writing comes forward. But I think, again, we're using technology to our advantage. So we have right now a GAB class that's all the way from British Columbia to Panama.
Right.
That never would have happened.
Right. You know, I started this in 2009 using Cisco WebEx because there was no Zoom. And we wouldn't be where we are today had I not done that. So, and even then, I was the one dragging my feet. Anita was the one saying, go ahead and try this. So I guess I'm an adverse to change person. But anyway, I can't think of it any other way. In fact, I have done research. It's never been published because I've never gotten past my co-author, Dr. Gary Reeker, retired and started spending time with his grandkids and acting rather than doing any kind of statistical analysis. So I did it because I could see even, and this is because even this is back like 2012, I could see that the people that were going through the online like this, when you can see each other and hear your stories, had the same changes as they did in a real class. So we did pre and post tests, the very same tests we had used with a live group at USC. So I have those results to show you that there are changes that happen to people online when you're in a small, and just like, you know, we've got Todd here, one of Lily and Lee's classes, you know, that completed, I don't know, Todd, when did you finish the training? They still meet. They still get together and meet once a month.
Yeah, I finished last year.
So last year, and that small group in that can made that connection within the online sessions with Lily or Lee. I don't know if it was both of them. I think it was. Anyway,
Yeah, both.
yeah,
Yeah. They've been extremely helpful.
yeah.
Even as of up to yesterday.
Yeah,
Lily.
see? Yeah, and that's the thing, you know the trainers are all, in fact, I should have all the trainers. We don't have Heidi here, but is Sarah still here? Anyway, all of those that are doing the training. So I really give a shout out to all of you. But yes, we wouldn't be here, Greg, without Zoom. But yes, there is something different in a real one too. And Steve Smith,
Yeah.
I think you had a comment.
Hi, I came very late to the meeting, so I apologize in advance if this was already covered. But just on the marketing side, not having to do with AI, there is tremendous value in claiming, if we can, that we are the oldest or the largest or the first. So I just wanted to put a bug in
Yeah.
someone's ear about that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Jim Beeren thought the guided autobiography goes back to 1974. I think it was 75 when he offered his first guided autobiography class at a 2-week summer institute workshop at USC, of course, in person. But anyway, yes, we are the oldest that I know of. Linda.
Well, you can always claim it until someone says you're not. So.
Well, I'll go for that. We're the oldest. Linda, you have your hand up.
Yeah. This was a lot today. Are we going to have access to
the recording? Yes.
Yeah, the recording and actually the slides all over again, so we can kind of take notes. Maybe I didn't take notes.
That's up to Lily and Lee. No, I can see with a grandchild on your hip, Linda.
Yeah,
that's pretty hard taking a note.
It has been, yeah.
But they will be in the recording, the slideshow.
Yeah, you can stop the recording and look at the screen that way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the slides would be really big.
No, I don't mean that I needed a physical copy of them via email or something like that. I more meant, are we just going to have the audio, or will we have?
Oh no, you'll have the whole picture. You'll have the whole MP4 file.
Okay, perfect.
Any other comments, questions? Was there anything in the chat, Michaela, that we needed to question that we needed to address?
There were a couple. One was asking if the slides would be available.
Okay.
One is, how does monitoring AI use impact facilitator writing relationships?
Okay, so read that again slowly.
How does monitoring AI use impact facilitator writer relationships?
Oh, so in other words, yeah, go ahead, Lily.
I was going to say, I don't think we're asking our facilitators to monitor and challenge people on their writing. I think we're talking about having a code just like we do for built on
Confidentiality.
trust,
Yeah.
just like we
Yeah.
do for confidentiality
Yeah.
and all of the other, is to have that code that we all agree to and we trust that you are abiding by it. I don't think we should be the police.
No.
Personally, I mean, I do know that you could, if you felt like something was just like you would have a conversation with anyone, that something might be off or, wrong or something, if it just sounded like slop. I don't
Yeah.
know what it would be, but I would think that one could ask deeper questions on the emotion behind the story to get to understand better what's happening with the story. But yeah, I don't plan on being a police, but we do plan to have that as part of
Your code that you want them to sign. Yeah.
yes, that we agree on.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, the next one we have is, could you explain the GAB philosophy along a continuum from writing off-grid with a nib pen to full AI generation?
Oh. Well, Lily or Lee, could we describe the GAB philosophy from writing with a nib pen? This reminds me, Jim Beeren used to say, you don't have to, you can adapt GAB. He said, it's not written on clay tablets. It's not permanent. You can adapt it to make fit your needs. So the philosophy of writing, well, it goes back to me, it goes back to the book that Natalie Goldberg wrote, Keep the Hand Moving. I write longhand, and then I go in and type it in. And then I use Grammarly to clean it up, and make all my spell checks. So I don't know, but there's something about personally writing, whether you do it on a computer or with me, like with a pen, that activates part of your brain in a different way that you wouldn't do if you were just talking about it or just, feeding it into AI. There's something that happens to you that's a change. You will learn something about yourself in the process if you can just keep the hand moving, I feel. So I'm not sure who asked that question. I would like to ask them more about how they came up with the question.
That was Mark Carter.
Okay, Mark, can you explain that a little bit better? I don't know if I answered it. Is Mark still here? Okay. Anybody else?
What if the audience is not, and I apologize if I cannot pronounce this properly. Gerontology?
Gerontology.
Gerontology.
Gerontology, the field of aging. That's what I am, Michaela. If you know nothing else about me, I'm a gerontologist.
Okay.
And now I'm living it. I study aging and I live it. Go ahead.
So what if the audience is not gerontologists?
So they're not older, you mean? Not aging or
So they did add a clarification. They said the audience could be midlife writers.
Just from the perspective of marketing, in terms of GAB was first, I was very exciting stuff that I think it was Todd that was saying about how to market everything in the context of Steve.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, if you could say GAB is the oldest, GAB is the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was responding to that. The audience could be mid writers or other audiences.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. It was the most amazing thing. I guess I hold Jim Beeren up in a revered position because I've gone to conferences and nobody knew who he was. It's like, really? You don't know who Jim? So I agree. The younger people aren't going to know, and they may not care about that. But I think it's still something that, we as an organization or using this as the basis. And now we have new classes. We don't have just guided autobiography. We have Shaking the Family Tree. We have Life Portfolio. We have Tasting the Past. We have one-page website. We have new classes and courses coming in that aren't just guided autobiography, but it's all based on that same GAB process that goes back all those eons, into the premier pioneer gerontologist, Jim Beeren. So anybody young could appreciate that, I think.
I just want to add on that
Sure.
moment about younger GAB students.
Yeah.
My daughter is turning 30 this year. And so that's how I kind of get a barometer as to
Yeah.
what that generation is thinking and feeling. And I'm going to be turning 70. So between the two of us, we are centennials. And so we have very different points of view and very different life experiences. But my daughter and her girlfriends are now crafting. It is becoming a very
Right.
big thing now for that generation to do slow,
Right.
intricate, things that we used to do or our grandmothers used to do years
Right.
and years ago because they want to get away
Right.
from the whole, really fast-paced text, digital. My
Right.
daughter's a lawyer, so it just comes at her, at her,
Right.
at her. And she tells me that she goes with her girlfriend and they sit at a coffee shop and they paste little things together in little decoupages. And I'm
Right.
going, you're kidding. And she goes, no, Mom, this is what we like to do now.
Yeah.
Embracing this idea of slowness and embracing the idea of removing yourself just for 2 hours in a GAB session away from that constant digital world, I think is a huge selling point for the younger generation. That's my
I agree.
point.
I
So
agree.
it's not like a bunch of old people that don't know how to use technology that are
Right.
going to come to our classes. It's that we are now offering something that is very rare.
Yep.
And very rare things become very premium. And very
Right.
premium things become things that people are willing to buy.
Yep.
Okay?
My 40 plus son is knitting. So yes,
There
I
you
get it.
go.
I get it.
Well, we're at our
Yeah.
time, Cheryl.
Yeah. This has been great. Lily and
So
Lee, I can't thank you enough for bringing this
yeah.
to our attention.
Yes, thank you, Lily. Thank you, Lee.
Okay,
And
well, I hope
and
we see you all at our workshop that we're having next week on February 25th.
yeah,
And we
I
What
see
have
there's
time?
lots
been
of
some
ideas.
What time
there's
is
some
it, Lee?
interest in the chat. And also reminding people that if you have any ideas for future GAB chats or you want to propose something, drop me a line and Cheryl and I will take it from there. So we look forward to seeing you next month on the third Wednesday,
March 18th, I think it
March
is.
18th, and it'll be an evening session. So
Yeah.
look out for that in
So
the communication.
thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, guys.
I'm going to stop the recording.